Today, the UN issued a new warning about the humanitarian crisis in Mosul. In the 6 weeks since the offensive began, conditions have worsened dramatically for the people who live there. An estimated 600 people have been killed, and 1,200 more have been treated for traumatic injuries. Many of the civilian casualties are women and young children. Seb Walker reports from Mosul, in the eastern neighborhood of Gojali, where the dead arrive with terrifying regularity.
It's a daily ritual in Mosul. In a corner of one tiny cemetery on the eastern edge of the city, gravediggers are preparing the ground for dozens of people at a time. They know that fresh bodies will be arriving soon. Rahwan says he's buried more than 50 people since the fighting began. Some were his neighbors. Others were brought here without anyone knowing their identity. And the numbers are picking up sharply. Up the road is the only functioning clinic for miles around. Housed in an abandoned home, medics have been operating here since this neighborhood, Gojali, was cleared of ISIS 3 weeks ago. With the front line just a few hundred yards away, there's a steady stream of wounded.
So we've been here about 20 minutes now, and we've already seen about a dozen people come in. Some of them are civilians, but a lot of them are also soldiers. We're being told that we're not allowed to film those injuries. On the gurneys just behind me, there are actually wounded soldiers too.
The medics here are treating as many as 60 people a day, injured by coalition bombs, as well as ISIS sniper and mortar fire. Outside the clinic, families of the wounded wait anxiously. 27-year-old Derek Coleman is one of 2 American medics. He came to Iraq a year ago, hoping to join in the fight against ISIS, but ended up finding work as a medic for an international charity.
We tend to get patients in groups of 4 to 5. Everything modern warfare has to offer, amputations, eviscerations, severe burns, gunshot wounds, but I think it'll progressively get worse. We're kind of waiting for that day that's 120 plus patients or something, and we're just gassed, so I think it'll happen eventually.
He works alongside about a dozen Iraqi medics. The wounded are bandaged and loaded into ambulances, although the closest emergency hospital is over an hour away. More than a month into this conflict, the government's strategy is coming under question. 6 weeks of bombardment have inflicted damage on ISIS, but failed to dislodge them from most of the city. While Iraqi commanders are happy to give the media tours of recaptured neighborhoods like this one, they're less keen to talk about casualties, especially their own.
And how many casualties are your forces taking at this time?
This secret number.
Can you give any specific numbers? Or
No.
why not?
After we finish the clear, we need to clear and liberate Mosul. After this, I can't speak.
That point doesn't seem close just yet. Even in liberated areas, the threat of ISIS remains just blocks away. 9-year-old Maryam hasn't been to school in 2 years. She's been staying inside since airstrikes began pounding the city.
كثير مشتاقة طبعا كل واحد ما يشتاق الصداقات ما يعرف لا أوضاع صديقاتي وهي ما يعرفوا عني إحنا نخاف من الهوانات والقصف والضرب طبعا ماكو أحد ما يخاف من الضرب والقصف.
As the fighting pushes deeper into the city, hospital wards are filling with children. Up to a dozen a day are currently being injured. 4-year-old Baha Walid was wounded when mortars landed on his house. His 1.5-year-old cousin Yusuf has a piece of shrapnel in his back. Back in Mosul, the call to prayer sounds over the gunfire before yet another funeral. One of these bodies is Mazen Kader's uncle. The other is his father. They were hit when a mortar landed in the backyard. Mazen is just 20 years old, but he's in charge of the burial. The journey to the gravesite was so dangerous, most of the family stayed behind.
أخذنا الجرحى وصلنا المكان اللي بيه طبابة فعش دقائق أو أكثر توفى. ما لحقنا يعني نوقف النزيف.
Mazen is afraid to return. The route home will take him through areas where the fighting is intense. But as he lays his father to rest, he's summoning the courage to go back.
راح أرجع أقدر أحافظ على عائلتي.
You're going to go back to your neighborhood?
ترجع لقرايبك يعني تعيش وياهم؟
أكيد يعني ما عندي غير حل يعني شنو هو الحل؟ باعوا للجيران.